We were at Abbey Road. And I learned something that I think that Reddy Rich might be really interested in.
Okay.
Shoot me. Shoot me.
Okay, so Penn is clapping his hands in front of his mouth as he talks.
Shoot me. Now, Giles found out or knew that John Lennon, I said he brought Glenn Mox and I into the actual reverb echo chamber that John Lennon used.
Oh, man.
At Abbey Road. And I said, do you have anything dry of John Lennon? Is there any dry of John Lennon? He said, come together, we have dry. I said, really? He said, because he didn't use acoustic echo on that. They used tape delay, tape echo with a triplet tape echo on the Shoot Me.
Okay.
And then he stood in front of the mic and clapped his hands in front of his lips into a triplet tape echo going, shoot me, shoot me. And he said that comes out to shoot, do, 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 because it's the triple, which covers the me. And I said, why was he clapping his hands in front of his mouth? He goes, oh.
But it is that sound. It sounds like a production move, and it's just his hands.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
You understand that, Reddy?
I don't know why he did it either.
Yeah. And it was really nice because Giles gave us the full tour of the Beatles' Abbey Road Studios 2 and 3. It was really funny. We were in Studio 2, which is the one when you picture the Beatles, it's when you picture them in. And Mox walked in and went, because, Mox is theater tech.
Yeah.
Mox said, whoa, that's a big mix board. And Giles said, no, it isn't. And then he didn't say anything else. Just, no, it isn't. And then we went into the Studio 3, which is where the orchestras are recorded. All the Star Wars, all the Spider-Man, everything. Also the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's, but everything.
Yeah.
And we walked into the control room, and Giles said, that's a big mix board. And sure enough, it was 4 times the size of the other one.
Oh, that's funny. That's really
And then we heard the new Beatles single.
So there's going to be a new Beatles single?
Yeah, it'll be out in September, I think.
And it's just, again, just found footage?
I'm going to now tell you about it. And Reddy Mitch may want to chime in on a lot of this.
Okay.
So did you watch Get Back?
I didn't.
You did. Well, one of the things that's so amazing about Get Back is that they had what's called AI is really machine learning. They separated the voices. It's so incredible. You saw Get Back, right, Reddy? You saw something with me.
I watched the first couple.
Yeah. Well, you saw how there's one mic on the camera and people are talking in the background and it's crystal clear and it's broken on stereo.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Right.
The rig in front of Matt does this now too.
Yeah.
Okay.
They ended up with,
Yeah.
in the room with one microphone, they ended up with, 20 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Because they taught the computer program, this is what John Lennon sounds like. This is what Paul McCartney sounds like. So they could actually, when John and Paul were talking at the same time, separate them into separate tracks.
That's crazy.
I was explaining it to someone who didn't think about sound at all. And I said, imagine you look in a stew pot and you say, I wonder what those potatoes looked like before they were cut up and roasted. And what do those tomatoes look like? And someone goes, we can separate that out. And they type a few things, and 30 seconds later, you have the whole potato that was formerly in the stew. That's what they've done.
Yeah.
So there was a recording, the last recording on earth that Paul McCartney has not made money off. It was John Lennon playing piano and singing while watching TV. The TV is loud, and John is playing the piano and singing. Now, Paul had this in the 80s when they were doing all the anthology stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul got every engineer in the world and said, can you take out the TV? And they all tried, and they all failed.
Yeah.
Just failed. So now Giles said to the people that did the stuff on Get Back, you take out the TV on this? And they said, yeah. And sent them John Lennon, piano from 3 mics, voice, and the TV.
Oh, wow.
All separate.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's insane.
Yeah. And Giles said, we didn't use the TV. So now they have a piano track and a John track, but he also turns his head.
I want just the TV. Is Jack listening? I want just the TV clip.
So they now have a verse and a chorus
Yeah.
of John Lennon. Now, in the 80s, Paul played the John Lennon track for George, and George played some guitar over it. And they have that. Okay.
I mean, it's interesting that there just was an article recently with all the AI stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ringo saying, we'll never release any John Lennon AI. And I think that's important for the story that you're telling right now.
Well, that's why when Paul said it was AI, it kind of isn't.
Right.
Because they're separating, right?
Yeah.
But then it kind of is, because Paul wanted to sing along with John, because that's something the Beatles did, and they made Paul's voice younger.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Then Paul played bass. Then they put an orchestra in. Then they put horns in.
Oh, no.
Then they repeated the John thing, 4 times to make it a full song.
I know what you're trying to do, and I still just want the television track. I don't.
Then they put George's guitar.
Yeah.
Then they had an outtake from Because the world is round, it blows. They had an outtake from that, which had George, Paul, and John singing together in a chord. They took that chord, changed the key,
Oh, my God.
and had that be their backing vocals.
Wow.
Then Giles called Ringo and said, would you play drums on this new Beatles track? And Ringo said, I don't want to. And Giles said, which I love, you're the drummer for the Beatles. This is the last time you'll ever be asked as the drummer for the Beatles to play drums with the Beatles. And Ringo said, okay, I'll record it here at my house. He listened to the track. He played drums along with it. He mailed it back to Giles. And now there will be a new Beatles single out in about a month. And Mox sat there, jaw dropped,
Yeah.
mind blown, going, we're listening to the new Beatles single. And I said, you're not only listening to the new Beatles single, listening to the Beatles single in the room it was mixed in. On the speakers it was mixed for. It will never sound better than this. And then Giles and I started talking about the quality of the song. And Moxie interrupted us and said, it's the new Beatles single. He's also going in and remixing the Red and the Blue album with all those tracks laid out separately. Because now they can give him 5 tracks of drums.
Oh, wow.
And I've heard remixes before, but this sounded so live. It sounded like Imagine Dragons, except it was the Beatles. It was that well recorded.
It's also like we hear so much, so many reasons to fear technology, to be scared of what it's going to do or to be upset.
Very scared of this.
This is beautiful.
Yeah.
Because it would, otherwise it'd be
But
nothing.
the analogy of the stew, do you like that analogy, Ready Rich, or do you not like it?
Yeah.
Did it just make you hungry, Reddy?
I would say that 25 years ago, Ready, very few people would have imagined that stuff recorded on one mic could ever be separated. I think that it just has already been pulled in. So you don't think you could know you could pull the tracks out.
In a way that would sound clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just that a machine can learn the difference. I mean, that your ears can do it.
Yeah.
You hear John and Paul on one mic,
Yeah.
and you can tell that's John and that's Paul. But he played us some stuff that he'd remixed, and it was John and Paul, but instead of being in the stereo mix,
Yeah.
instead of being on the same mic like they've always been for my whole life,
Yeah.
they were like a foot apart. I mean, you can't imagine the difference that is.